Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Women Talk Tech. Today, I'm joined by Carina, the Director of Engineering at Solaris Bank. Today's chat is all around the topic of leadership and what progressing in tech actually looks like. We talk about the different options and the challenges she faced going from being a team lead herself to now leading a team of team leads. We also chat about the different modes as a leader you have to put yourself in, coaching versus leadership mode, and the challenges each of them involve. I say it all the time, but it's another great conversation I think you'll all enjoy. So, Carina, tell me a bit more about yourself.
Who am I? Yeah, I'm actually a software engineer by heart, right? And working in tech management, let's say, the last few years. I have two kids. They are 6 and 9 years old. And maybe fun fact about myself, I played in an accordion orchestra more than 20 years. Not much left from this, but yeah, I'm actually playing the piano now and then, but yeah, not as often as I would want to.
Oh, I love that. I must admit, my music or instrument knowledge is very vast. I think I played the recorder back in like primary school, and that was it.
Cool.
Literally, yeah. So I love that.
Nice.
Oh. And of course, everyone's journey into tech is so different. I think that's the one thing I've learned from this podcast, right? Of course, there is a set journey, but everyone's route is very different. Tell us a bit about your journey into tech, and how you kind of got to where you are now.
Cool. Yeah, happy to. So, actually, in school, I liked math and physics best, right? So that were my favorite subjects, and I also chose them as my major subjects, like later on in school, right? And I was like thinking, should I study math? Should I study physics? Sounds a bit boring, maybe, but what do I do, right? So then I felt like, okay, computer science is somehow in between, right? It's using math, it's using physics, but it's also more like hands-on, right? You're programming, you're developing software. So that was like the starting point, and then I was not sure, right? Is computer science is something to study for like nerds and gamers and all the people who spend like all their lifetime in front of computers, or is it also for someone who prefers reading books to gaming, but then likes math and physics, right? So that was my question. So I'm lucky me. It was also for people who like math and physics, and I really enjoyed studying then computer science, actually computer engineering, so a bit more closer to the hardware. Yeah, that was my starting point into tech.
Nice, nice. And I guess what made you want to get into tech? What made you? I know you said you kind of like the subject as a whole, but what made you then pursue a career in tech and kind of follow up to where you are now?
hmm Yeah, good question. It's let's say computers and mobiles, everything was super new when I was like deciding for what I want to do. Um, I bought my first own computer. I really wanted to understand how this computer thing works, right? So I didn't like I saved money and I didn't buy a computer like a finished computer, but bought parts and tried to build it up, right? I even did a course how to do this, and then I was like, okay, I need to understand. It can't be that hard, but it is actually that hard. It's a complex system, but yeah, I really wanted to understand. It was fascinating for me, right? How this thing does all this magic, but that's also how my studies helped a lot understanding that, and really, yeah, helping me to bring out the mystery out of the computer.
Yeah, really interesting. And then, of course, pursuing a career into tech. Of course, it's difficult because everyone's journey is so different, like I said, and everyone does have different challenges as you've gone through it. Of course, the podcast really is about, encouraging more women to get into tech, but also, not shying away from the challenges that we do face in the industry.
Mhm.
In your career journey and in your journey so far, what struggles did you face when I guess embarking on your journey into tech? Were there any particular, moments, memories that you remember when you thought, "Hey, is this for me?" How was that for you in the very early stages?
Yeah, in the early stages, let me remember. So I have one scenario in my head where we actually we had this course at the university, right? Obviously, only guys and me, and then like this one guy spoke up and, yeah, but she will not join my group, right? Women can't handle computers. And my girlfriend also always breaks a computer. And I was like, I was sitting in this room with like 13 male specimen, right? And I was like, oh no, he did not just say this. No, everyone who speaks up and says like, yeah, you can come to my group, it feels so bad, right? Because you're the women in the room, like from one second to the next. So that was not, I was not asking myself the question whether I'm right there, but I was already like, oh, come on, that's not how it should be, right? And then, yeah, there were some challenges, right? Right after I finished my studies, I was the big, strong new computer engineer, my diploma in my hand. I was so proud. I'm their world. Everyone wants to work with me probably. And then I wanted to actually do a PhD in like medical computer science because I developed a surgical simulator in my diploma thesis. So it's like a flight simulator for pilots, but just a surgical simulator for surgeons, so they can train how to operate. And then I wanted to like follow up in this domain and do a PhD in this domain. And then I talked to a professor in Berlin, and everything was great. And he said like, yeah, okay, come on, you can start in October, right? Then I went there, I think 2 weeks before, and just to sign the contract and finalize every paperwork, right? And then he was like, I have some doubts about your like technical capabilities. I was like, what? I'm here to sign my papers, not to discuss whether I'm working with you, right? It's like only 2 weeks and then I'm like unemployed, right? Because or starting working with you. And then he was like, yeah, I would rather hire you as a technical assistant. And you could organize my conferences, and it's great that you have all this technical knowledge. But I need someone who like organizes everything, and I trust you that you have the capabilities to do that. And I was like, no, I'm finally there, right? I have my great thesis done, and everything is done. My master's is done, my diploma, right? And then technical assistant. So yeah, I did have challenges that then, because I was like, okay, maybe I can't do it. Maybe I don't know anything. What do I know? I just studied it, right? I mean, I also worked in some as a student, right, on the side, but I had a lot of doubts then myself. So as a newborn ready engineer, I waited tables. That was amazing. It was not amazing, but it was crazy, right? So for this 3 months, that was actually pretty hard, and I was also asking myself, what am I doing here? Now I did all this like 5 years of studying for nothing. But then 3 months later, I had a great job. I started a great job. I started to develop image recognition systems for quality control and production. Sounds a bit, yeah, different, but it's only like, for example, their bottles are produced, and then like my software checked automatically, is there a dent in the bottle neck, right, or something is wrong. So then we need to sort it out, or if everything is good, we can actually, it can go to be sold. And we did this for a lot of things, like also chocolate and a lot of cool things, contact lenses, right? So I learned a lot about products, production, obviously also image recognition. So that was an amazing job, and thereafter it also got easier, right? But from the start, it was not that easy, let's say.
Wow, wow, wow. I can't believe that. From being told you should be a technical assistant to now the director of engineering at Solaris Bank. That is, an amazing achievement. I think what I found in the journey that I've been doing on this podcast is that women get into tech, but not many people manage to stay in tech. So unlike yourself, not many people manage to kind of get to the top, or they struggle to kind of, I guess, surpass that kind of level where you do break into the
Mhm.
leadership, side of things. So I mean, let's discuss your journey into leadership. What made you pursue that journey?
So I would say my journey into leadership started in my second job. So after the image recognition software, I worked for almost 10 years in a company who built geomechanical simulation software. Again, crazy terms. So what did we do, right? We actually um, developed a simulation software that computes how rock breaks, right? How do
Wow.
fractures connect in rock? How I learned a lot again, right? That's also what's amazing about computer science. I think you can work in like every domain, and in every domain, it's super interesting to learn the domain also. So this one was also nice for me because, as I mentioned, right, I like math and physics, and so all the mechanics of rock and understand how this is computed was super interesting for me. Yeah, and I started. It was only my boss, like the founder of the company, and me, and then he got all the geomechanical knowledge in. I got all the computer science knowledge in, and then he also did all the managing, brought all the money in. Right, it was a startup. It was super challenging and interesting to work there, and I could build up my own team then over time, hiring mathematicians, physicists, and computer scientists also, right, and build up my team. We were kind of equal. There was no like crazy hierarchy or anything, but also I was like the longest standing member, right, and I built up the team. So I also started to lead the team, and we were also like deciding how to work together. So in this small company, I started to like be a team lead, be a head of engineering, we called it over time, right, because all the technical decisions, architectural decisions, um, were like influenced a lot by me. Yeah, that was maybe the start. And then a lot of change again. I'm not sure, not interesting for for the leadership journey, I think. Yeah, I worked with a medical company again because I wanted to go back to the medical domain, and landed in a startup again where we built up an art science community platform. So again, super different, right? But then the money was empty for the startup, right? No money left. How it is sometimes with startups. And I was like from one day to the other unemployed again, right? This crazy term, unemployment again. We all need to pay our rents. But I mean, we're in a safe social system, so in Germany we also get unemployment money, so no problem. But I wasn't like ready to apply again to companies, like do all this effort again, right? Because it just happened from one moment to the other. And yeah, and then actually, was the VP of Vice President of Technical Operations reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I was like, Solaris Bank, a bank. I mean, I worked in a lot of domains already, but
Yeah.
finance, I'm not sure. And he's like, yeah, but like actually, we had a call, and then he was in a t-shirt, like you could see like all his tattoos, right? And he was like, yeah, I'm not the typical banker, all good. We're a tech company. We have a banking license, but we're also different. And that was like, yeah, he saw my CV and said like, yeah, you would be a great VP also over here, right? And I'm like, a VP? And then we talked a bit more. Like my companies were also super small, right? The title sounds amazing. Like I was a head of engineering, a CTO, whatever, right? But always in small companies. Um, and then we talked, and then he's like, "Yeah, but you should work with us, even if you're not the VP. Let's start as a team lead. Come on, let's try it out." And I was like, who am I to say no to someone who's offering me a job when I'm unemployed and I'm not actually interested in going from company to company and finding out what I want at the moment. Also, my kids were like smaller, right? Yeah, I didn't want to spend the energy. And then I was like, okay, if you really want to work with me, let's try it, right? And yeah, that's where I started to be like in a pure leadership position, just being a team lead, not a software engineer anymore, like after 12, 13 years.
Yeah, crazy, crazy. And you mentioned, of course, as a team leader, your role was to kind of grow engineers, to ensure that they were not overwhelmed with work, make sure they're happy. How do you do this? How did you find doing this role as a female, whereby, say, you would have been leading a group of male engineers, right?
Yeah, a good question. So it's let's say not try to be is a mother.
Yeah,
It happens easily that like with all like the young engineers flying around, right? That I'm getting into the I'm the mother, and I'm, you
Mother hen.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm cleaning up behind you. I'm making sure you have to eat. And no, that's not it, right? I don't want to be the mother. What do I do? I'm talking with them a lot. I'm asking questions. I'm listening. Um, we build up like relationships, right? You need to see the person behind the developer. So it's important that we can also talk. Like if someone has personal problems, they obviously need some space at work, right? So if you don't build up like the trust between each other, it's actually, yeah, super tough to be a good lead, I think. Yeah, and how do I do it, right? As I said, right, I chose math and physics major in school already. So since I'm 17, maybe I work more or I talk more. I have more friends who are actually male. So I'm actually struggle more with talking to females than to males because like all the training since I don't know, I don't say how many years, then you know how old I am, but yeah. So all I mean, I'm always talking to men a lot more than to women. So that's also what I'm good at, probably at work.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, of course, when you do come from being one of the only females, that's all you really know. And then when you do get into the world of work, it's no different. I actually went to an all-female girls' school, and it was almost the opposite. Like I didn't struggle, of course, but like when you kind of go into a room where you're like now a minority as opposed to being a majority, it's like you kind of say less because you're used to. It just felt really weird. Whereas for you, you've always had a voice. You've always been, the kind of I guess a minority in that sense. So you kind of had to fight yourself through the kind of men, but it was no different, right? Because you've always been speaking with men.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. We had a joke at the university when you sit in the back of the classroom, right, and you see someone who has long hair. The probability that it's a woman is a lot less than the probability that it's a man, right? Because like the typical computer science, like also long hair and a bit like
yeah,
nerdy. Yeah, we had a
yeah,
lot of them also in university.
yeah. If anything, you blended in a lot more, right?
That was easier, exactly.
Oh, and of course, moving into your role now, right? You're now leading the team leads, which is of course very different to being that team leader yourself. I know that when we spoke previously, you mentioned that the problem here is being close enough that you're not kind of doing too much, but far enough that you can still empower them and actually let them make the decisions. How have you found that? Because that's a bit of a different role you're now taking on. How has that been as a female as well? But how's that been in general?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think I didn't solve it yet. I'm not sure whether I will solve it in the future, right? I, so the first thing was going from software engineer to just being a team lead, right? I
Yeah,
When I saw a problem and an engineer couldn't solve it, I was like, "Oh, come on!" I
like
wanted to, like solve the problem.
yeah,
And that was the first thing where I needed to take a step back, right, and let others solve it and support them with asking good questions, and not providing solutions, right? So how
yeah,
people cannot grow if you solve everything for them. And yeah, and now from as a lead of leads, it's even more stepping back, right? I have like one-on-ones with my team leads, obviously, but also have now and then one-on-ones with teammates, because if I only talk to my leads, right, I only get their perspective, and also I can't help them grow. If I know how it's actually in the teams, how the team members see also the lead, I can I have multiple perspectives, and I can actually support also my team leads to grow, right? Before it was like growing engineers, and now it's like growing leads to be like a great lead for their teams.
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because of course it's a different sort of relationship, right? You have to, like you said, be close enough that you can see what's going on. But even
Yeah,
if you're only speaking with the team leads, you only get one perspective and you can
exactly.
only then see one thing. Whereas then having the holistic view of the entire team, you can then help your team leads grow so they don't stay stuck at that kind of team lead level.
Exactly. And sometimes happens more to men than to women, in my experience at least. Team leads think everything is great, right? They tell me, yeah, the team is happy, everything is so good, and we solved this problem, we solved that problem, and when I'm like after the one-on-one with the male team leads, right? I'm like, oh, so good, everything is perfect. Yeah, I'm relaxed, I'm relieved, I'm really good, right? Then I talk to the teams, and then I'm like, and there are some things that are actually not solved, right? And then I need to start working with them. And I do see a difference with female team leads, right? The one-on-one sessions are super intense. We're talking a lot about problems. I feel like, whew, there's so much going on, and I don't feel relaxed after those one-on-ones, right? I feel a bit stressed. But then I go to the teams, and I feel like, actually, she sees all the problems, she solves all the problems, everything is good, right? So it's really, not every man, not every woman are
Yeah, of
different,
course.
obviously, right? But it's like, it feels like a pattern that I see over time, that I really need to check up, like you also said, right? Really need to get an understanding, how is it in the team, and what is the team lead telling me. And it's not that they want to tell me something wrong, right? It's just also how they see it and how they reflect it themselves, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's super interesting. And yet over the time, I started the director role last July. Over the time, it's getting better, right? And you also feel, you get a better feeling for how close do you need to be with with a specific person, right? Not with everyone you need to have the same closeness, and not with every team you need to be as close, and maybe not in every situation. There might be projects that really need your support and attention, even as a second level lead, right? But
Yeah.
then other projects, everything is smooth, everything is good. You just need to step in now and then to listen, right? And then you can step out again, and then all is good.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess that topic is really interesting. Why do you think that men tend to say everything's fine? Wait, before I say it, actually, before I say it, this is of course our opinions based on Karina's experiences. It's
Yes.
not scientific fact or anything like that. But why do you think that women tend to see more? You mentioned that the kind of one-on-ones are a lot more intense, whereas the male ones are, yeah, everything's great. Why do you think that is? What's in your experience? Why do you see that to be the case?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that's a good example, but I have this story in my mind, right? When a man looks into the mirror and looks like, at their belly maybe, and at their body, and they think, oh yeah, looks good, all
Great.
good, right, great, I'm in shape, it's okay. So, and then women looks into the mirror, and it's like, I got a new wrinkle here, so there's something off, right? Also, again, not every man, not every woman is
Yeah,
same. We say that again, but it's like some traits that you can find in multiple people, right? I do think that there might be more women that really try to, yeah, that are really like, not more reflective, but yeah, search also for the things that are wrong, which could also be really helpful in a lead, right? Say they might solve a lot more problems, that because they challenge themselves a lot, they challenge their team a lot. Men also challenge their teams. So yeah, so like we said, right? So every person is an individual, but sometimes I see that, right? That
yeah,
my male team leads, they are like, oh, all is good. Everything's great, Karina. We solved all the problems. Come on, we can drink a beer now. And it's so relaxing. It's so great. I
yeah,
also understand why some managers don't want to promote the women, because it's so much work, right? And like every one-on-one, it costs so much energy. But
yeah,
then again, you also get the great results, right? So it's definitely worth the effort to
yeah,
work with women and to promote women
yeah. I
into
was
all
about
the
to say,
positions.
onto the topic of kind of promoting women, you mentioned that in your time, you've also seen a lot of women stay at that kind of IC level and not progress into that leadership role. Why do you mentioned there that it is a lot of work to work with a female team leader, but that can't be the reason, right?
No,
Why
no,
is
no.
this the case, or why do you think this to be the case?
Mm, I think it's also, mm, to be in those male rounds, right? Software engineers, female software engineers, they know this, how to work in a male dominated environment, right? So that cannot be the only reason to not step up and be again in a male dominated environment. Um, there are like situations where it's, yeah, where where it feels like there's a power struggle, like you Ah, the it feels like there are discussions where it's not about the topic, but who is the best one and needs to, like, so some of like leadership is, how do you say, not happy, not nice, not relaxing, not relaxed environment maybe, but it's
Yeah.
also a lot of fighting and discussing and power struggling. um where you might ask yourself, why? Why should
Yeah.
I do this, right? Why should I spend so much of my time, yeah, in an environment where it's maybe not all happy smiley faces and everything is good and I can just do my work, right? As an engineer, you can also just do your work, right? And you have a lot of freedom, and it's different in leadership, right? And for me it's important, like currently have a super inclusive environment. Most of my male colleagues also, like the other VPs and CTO, CIO, all have kids, all are want to be fathers, so they are take part in their life of their children, right? I feel a lot of support, inclusion, and so it's not like all the time fighting, but on the other side, we have budgets. We need to decide who gets what, right? So it's always this situation where, like, is he getting the budget or I'm getting the budget? So I need to speak up again and again, right? And also on a day where I might, don't want to speak up, right? There are days where you don't want to fight. There are days where you just want to sit down and just let go. But then again, my teams also need the budget. My teams also need the new engineer joining their team, right? So I need to stand up and fight again and again. And I mean, fighting is not fighting in that sense, but still, you need to speak up again and again. And it's effort and
Yeah.
energy.
No, 100%. Some people, you're right. Some people don't want to kind of use their energy to kind of fight for everyone, in their career. So I totally get it. How can we change this? How can we? How do you, in your opinion, of course, not scientific fact again, but how do you how do you think we can change it? Because I think I've been doing a lot of research on, women in leadership roles. We see a lot that women tend to lead with more empathy, and they tend to have these kind of nurturing and caring kind of qualities, which make good leaders, right? So
Mhm.
naturally, women should be, good leaders. But how can we kind of make more women want to pursue that kind of leadership role? How can we change the stats?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I'm asking that myself also a lot of times. So I'm afraid I don't have the answer to solve the world. I think we need to do it like, sorry. um, I think we need to change it step by step, right? Every woman who's in leadership should promote women to also come into leadership, to give them also a safe environment where they need to fight less, right? Or where they are also seen if they don't fight, right? Where if
That's
they
true.
don't speak up as strong, you're still listening also to them, right? So maybe like everyone, also not every woman, also every man in a leadership position should do that, right? Empower the women and listen even if they don't speak up as strong, right? So
Yeah,
their opinion is still has the same weight as someone else who's really likes to speak up and who's really strong in a discussion. So if
yeah,
every one of us gives like maybe a small thing and really works on bringing a good environment for women or for everyone actually, to have a diverse team, it's that's maybe the small things that every one of us can do.
yeah. No, really, really interesting. And onto the topic of, yourself now, your current role. I know that you are, like I said before, you're now the director of software or engineering at Solaris Bank. That's a big title, right? I think it's crazy to even have that. How have you found your most recent role? You mentioned a bit about it earlier, but how have you found it now, especially, being maybe the only female? You
Mhm.
mentioned that, you work well with other leaders who are, fathers or, fathers to be. How have you found now your role at Solaris Bank as a director?
Mhm. Yeah, so I started as Solaris as a team lead. I had two teams that I led in the beginning. Um, yeah, 21 I started. Yeah. And then I actually saw that one of the departments that was close to mine was struggling, right? They had like a super stressful project. People were overworked. People started to leave from this department, right? And I felt like we need to change something there, right? Everyone will leave, and also the people are super unhealthy and unhappy, and it's so bad, right? And I actually talked to my lead back then, the VP, now our CIO, and I told him like, "Come on, we need to change something." And he's like, "Yeah, if you want to, you can have them." And I'm like, wait, no, 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 that was not what I wanted to say. No, but I actually kind of also wanted to say, right? Because I was like, it it should be solvable, right? It should be a solvable problem to make this department happy and healthy again, also, right? They are like great people and they have a great domain. There needs to be a way to save them and make them strong again, right? And to somehow bring, also talk to the customer, to our partners, and make sure that we have like due dates that are achievable and that we don't burn the whole team, right? So then he was, yeah, if you're up for the challenge, you can have it. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm up for the challenge. Come on, let's do it. Let's make this department good again. And yeah, that was like over 1 year ago. And yeah, I started to be senior EM, senior engineering manager. I was the role called because then I had like 3 teams. Then one of my engineers actually also wanted to be a team lead, so I grew him to a team lead. So I had my first team lead that reported to me, and that was actually a nice path because then also one other colleague of mine wanted to grow into a team lead position. I also grew her, and then like step by step, it evolved that this let's say, yeah, broken department, we built it up again, also with people from inside, and everyone took a role and did their part of, yeah, bringing more health again. We increased the hiring, and yeah, I think now, hopefully, if everyone tells me the truth, they are a happy department. At least that's the feedback that I get. um, we're a lot stronger in people power, right? And I think we're also a lot stronger in voicing when, yeah, due dates are just not achievable, and we need to also make sure that our engineers are good. So yeah, that's when it started, and I kind of did the same mistake again. We had a different department now that also struggled. And I always heard, like, from product owners, from engineers, like, it's so bad and something is broken. And then I was like, ah, I want to help them.
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah, it's this need to like help engineers to just have a great environment, right? And then also we can deliver. If everyone is happy and healthy, I think delivery is the next step, right? If we only focus on delivery, we can't make it work. But if we focus on the people and on the teams, then delivery is really what easily comes out of it. Okay, long road. So how did I come there? I saw problems, I wanted to solve them, I stepped up, though I was super scared, right? I was super scared. Okay, everything is broken, but also if everything is already broken, how much more can you break, right? So it's a good learning opportunity to build it up again.
Yeah, amazing. Really interesting. I think when you identify a problem and you really want to solve it, that is the next step, right? You don't just see the problem. I think we actually say solutions, not problems. So it's fine finding the problem, but you need to have a solution for that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that. And one topic I really, really wanted to kind of touch upon was motherhood. I know that you mentioned you had, 2 beautiful children, and you've, of course, embarked on your career in tech as a mother, a good proportion of it, right?
Yeah.
How have you found navigating? Of course, motherhood in general is a massive topic, and everyone goes through their career, but tech especially is quite intense, right? How have you found navigating the world of tech as a mother?
Yeah, also good question. And even now, also colleagues are asking me, how are you doing this, right? With the workload and everything. It's crazy. And I'm like, no, it just looks like this from the outside that I'm doing well, right? Every one of us is struggling with everything. So It's not that I'm like a perfect director and a perfect mother and a perfect whatever, right? So I don't think that you can be. So I'm also relaxed with not being perfect on everything. Um, yeah, like obviously when the kids were small, it was super challenging. And then even 3 years ago when COVID came, or was it 4 years ago? Then we had like homeschooling and everything. So that was like, okay, I just started my job in Solaris. Then I had the kids at home. Um, my older one was the first year of school, and we needed to homeschool him and teach him like reading and everything, numbers and everything, right? Was like obviously we were also like at the end of our strength, right?
Yeah.
It was like I worked 6 to 11, 11 to 3. I had the kids, then 3 to I don't know 6. I worked again or something. So we came onto the 8 hours, right? And then I had the kids again, and it was like crazy.
Yeah.
And so how do you do it? I think you can only do it if you don't aim for perfection, because there is no perfection, right? I want to spend kids time with my kids, so I have also kids blockers in my calendar.
Oh, I love
Everyone is also okay with that. If they are not okay, right, it's probably not the company for me. So like 2 days a week, I spend like from 3 p.m. the afternoon with my kids. Um, the other then 2 more even afternoons, right? My partner spends the afternoon with the
Yeah.
kids, and then the fifth one is for my mother, for the grandmother, right? So we have the afternoon sorted out, and it's like a plan. Everyone knows it's all good. I leave at 3 on Mondays and Thursdays, and everyone knows, right? I want to spend the time with my kids. They are growing up too fast, anyways.
Yeah.
And yeah, I also enjoy both, right? And maybe last sentence, sorry, talking again a lot. Um, uh, for me, it's also actually helpful um, because people say like, yeah, you need to burn out then because it's so much to do. Actually, for me, it's actually helpful because I have a concrete reason to close down my computer at 6 p.m. I might open it again at 8 when the kids are in bed, right? But still at 6, I'm closing my computer no matter the number of emails that are unread, right? And it's helpful because if I wouldn't have the kids, it wouldn't be as easy, right, for me. So actually, for me, as at least, it's helpful against burning out that I
Yeah.
have the kids, because it's also different load on the mind, right, or it's more on the body
Yeah.
uh, than the mind.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, I think we think about motherhood and we think about our careers. And I think I guess the issue which comes to mind is how do you balance both? And I think as a woman, right, we try to do everything. You try to be the best mother, the best director of engineering, the best,
Exactly.
the best everything. And it's impossible, right? So some things do have to give. But I think what I love about your story is that you do take the help, right? Your partner does some days, the grandmother does some days, and that
Exactly.
enables you to kind of be the best at what you're trying to do, right? Because
Absolutely.
you've got all that help. And I think that's what, take the help. That's the key thing, right? Don't try and do
Uh,
everything by yourself. Take the help you can get because it does actually help you to be a better person.
Yeah, and ignore if the house is not perfectly clean. I mean, there, take the help, right? It's okay to have someone who helps with cleaning. It's okay to have a cleaning robot, and that the
Yeah.
corners of the room are not as clean as the rest because the cleaning robot is not as good in cleaning corners, right? I mean, that's what I mean with perfectionism, right? If I want to also be the perfect housewife, I can't. Like, if we have guests, I always tell them, if you want to be here, I do everything as good as possible, right? But it's not perfect. Obviously, it doesn't look like everything is shiny and glossy and perfect in my house because I can't and I won't, right? I will spend the time rather with my kids than, I don't know, cleaning some porcelain and yeah, that's not what I do.
Yeah, yeah, no, really interesting. Well, no, honestly, Karina, we could speak forever, and I honestly have loved this conversation. But thank you so much for joining us. I think we covered such great topics, and I think the topic of motherhood is something I really want to go into because I think a lot of women shy from progressing in any career because they're not too sure how to balance it. So I
Mhm.
think that's something I really hope we can shed. But yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Cool. Thank you so much for the invite.